What's it like having your first one-man show?
Well, strictly speaking, it's not the first one-man show. I've had solo shows before, but this is really actually a commercial show with a commercial gallery, fairly newly opened, the Cris Contini Contemporary here in London. And the gallery is actually owned by Italians who do have galleries in Italy. So they've just reopened here in London. They used to have a gallery some time ago, but it was closed during lockdown. So they've just opened again here in Notting Hill. And yeah, it's very nice. It's a nice little space. It's about right for the amount of work I've got. It's mainly fairly recent work, although most of it is actually from this year, 2024, although some of it's also from 2023. And there's a couple of really large pieces downstairs that I did back in 2016. And I thought it would be, they're quite big. They're the only two that size I've done. And they're quite different in style in a way. So I just thought it'd be nice to show something kind of different and quite dramatic down in that basement space.
How did you work out which pieces to put in?
Well, I mainly stuck to the more recent work because I felt that some of the earlier work, it took me a while really to reach the style that call it a style, the sort of style that I've got at the moment, and I wanted it to be a continuity and consistency. So that's why I picked pretty much all fairly recent work, apart, as I say, from the paintings from 2016.
And does it feel quite exposing when you've got to show your artwork and people come and see it, or is it like a thrill? Or
well, I've done it before, so it wasn't sort of a unique experience. I mean, it's always a bit nerve-wracking when people come around, and also I make films which, you know, we've shown in cinemas and film festivals, and I've had to do Q&As and things, so it's not you know, it's it's not a completely new experience for me, but yeah, it's always a little bit, yeah, I get a little anxious, of course, but we've had some nice reviews. There was a nice podcast interview on a website called Considering Art, where they interviewed me, and there's been a couple of other reviews which actually were very good. So generally I'm quite pleased, actually.
And when you sell a piece, do you feel attached to those pieces and feel weird about them going?
Well, yeah, well, I feel weird about them going as soon as they leave the studio, actually. I mean, there were a couple of pieces that I'd only literally just finished, and then they were sort of like collected the next day, and I felt a bit bereft. So yeah, it is a straight. You do get quite attached to them, and I like to live with them for a while, really, before they leave. But that wasn't really possible in every case.
And you've named your paintings after songs, is that right? Do you listen to songs when you paint, or?
Yeah, I mean, I have a big playlist of music that I subscribe to Apple Music, so I create my own playlist. Anything I kind of like the sound of, which makes me feel. I generally like songs that actually have lyrics and have a proper song. And I listen to a lot of like swing music from Ella Fitzgerald and Frank Sinatra, I used a lot of those song titles, the sort of what they call the American Songbook. There's one up here called Summer Wind, which is a Frank Sinatra song, and Tenderly, which is also a Frank Sinatra song. And they stick in my mind. I look through and try and find titles that feel like they sort of connect with the painting. I mean, I don't literally put on a track and then paint it, but I try and find song titles that I think somehow reflect that painting to some extent.
And if someone asks you what a painting means, is that irritating, or? Well, because you're working in abstract.
They are ultimately abstract, so people see different things. I mean, there's a big one downstairs, a big green one, that one person said they thought it was like giblets, and somebody else said they thought it was like fallopian tubes.
Oh my God.
So, because I didn't really think of either of those things, but people see kind of what they want to see, I think. But they are ultimately abstract, so they're supposed to have like a tone and a feeling. They're really about creating a feeling and a space and movement, really, rather than any like big subject. But what I like about it is that you're creating something new that enters the world. It's a bit like having a baby, you know, you sort of create this thing that hasn't existed before.
I mean, it's a difficult question because it's like being asked what's your favourite music, but which artists have inspired you? Which abstract artists do you sort of think?
Well, Waldemar Janacek of the Sunday Times, he's somebody I've worked with in the past. He saw the paintings and he said they were pop suprematism. Suprematism is artists like Malevich and Rodchenko from the sort of Russian sort of 20s and 30s, which I do quite like. And paintings are quite colourful, so I guess that kind of like idea of pop suprematism is perhaps valid, although I'm not totally sure I like that. But I really like some of the abstract expressionists like Barnett Newman. I really like, who has very simple kind of colour layouts, and you know, Jackson Pollock and all those sort of people. But I also like all the classics like Matisse and Picasso. So I like a whole range of different things. Léger I quite like. They're quite Ferdinand Léger. They have quite a sort of graphical. I think they're a bit of an influence. But all sorts of different things really. Like in terms of the colours, I've kind of developed a bit of a palette of colours that I often use and reuse. So it's a mixture of I suppose quite bright colours like magentas and reds, but also purples, and I like. But then if you use those colours, you then need to juxtapose those with more earthy colours like burnt sienna browns or raw sienna browns, and it's really trying to play, and even white actually, just to create space within the painting. Somebody famous called it negative space, to be able to juxtapose and open the painting up. So that's how you play with the different colours. So you're playing with light and shade, as well as colour contrast. You know, certain colours really zing together, like magenta and raw sienna, for example. That's a great kind of, not exactly a clash, but they really zing when they're together. Or Naples yellow and I can never say it, alizarin crimson. Alizarin crimson is a great combination. But then I tend to stick with pretty much the same palette in all the paintings, but used in different ways. And then occasionally I find a new colour which I really like, and then sort of integrate it and use it in.
Is there anyone you wouldn't sell your paintings to?
I think in general you want to feel like they go to homes where they really appreciate it and that people are going to get some joy from. I mean, people say they're very positive, uplifting paintings, and I have one collector called Sharon who bought a painting of mine, and she sent me this whole message which was almost like a poem about how she loved getting up in the morning and seeing it, and it really inspired her and gave her a great positive start to the day. And I mean, that was so nice to hear that, you know, that actually you can add something to people's lives is really important. You know, you don't want to just somebody to put it in a cupboard or something. You want it out and for it to be enjoyed. So obviously I wouldn't be so keen on somebody just buying it to put in a cupboard, but the money might be appreciated. But I don't know, in terms of people, I mean, you know, I wouldn't be particularly keen if Vladimir Putin came round and wanted one, but so I have to say, no, Vladimir, no, you can't have it. You can't have it until you stop that war. That's it. You can't have the painting.
Good decision. How do you see your paintings moving forward? Do you think you're going to stick with this, you know, beautiful style you have, or will it evolve? Well,
it does evolve anyway. I mean, because new shapes. I mean, the shapes come from the world around me, and I'll see something which I find interesting. One of them here, actually, this one called Slip Sliding Away, came about just because I saw some shadows falling underneath a park bench, the slats in a park bench. I just really liked the, I don't know what you call that sort of shape, that really intrigued me, and they became the shapes.